Welcome to the Simply Be Found Huddle. You have Dean, you have Rob, and we have our guest, Roy, today. Roy, I want to talk about this because if I read your stuff right, and correct me if I'm wrong, you went from $5 million in debt to then getting into podcasting and pulled yourself out of it. Am I reading that right for your past?
That's correct. Yeah, that's exactly what
That's
happened.
pretty awesome feat, Roy.
So was that 5 million US or was that in different
It
countries?
was no, it was about 20 million Polish zloty. So depending on what time of the year you're asking, it can be €5 million or $5 million, but it was a lot of money. So,
one of those things where you had the restless nights and everything else to come with it.
Exactly.
So how did you pull out by doing podcasting? I'm curious. What's your story?
Okay, so I'm Irish and I ended up moving to Poland because I started dating a Polish girl. I wasn't planning on moving there full time, but saw the property was cheap. At that stage, I had 3 properties in Ireland. And I was like, okay, it's very cheap here. Let's start getting a few properties. And I saw an opportunity. So I set up a company, and the company I called was Polera, Pol for Polish, and Era is the Irish for Ireland. And that was the name of the company. And I started getting, it was originally for Irish investors. So I go to like a BNI meeting to kind of meet people and, get people to come across. And it started working well. I got syndicates. I released equity in my properties to get into a syndicate, because what I found is if I was putting skin in the game, people said, all right, if he's putting his own money in the game, we're on board. And I got a lot of people. I was getting English clients, American clients as well. And the relationship broke, and I would have lost everything at that stage, because basically the person I was with kind of said, hey, I've set up my own company and I can look after you. And I would have lost because I was after putting in so much money in each development. And I knew I had the experience. I worked in construction for all my life. I studied construction economics and management. So I knew I was the kind of better person to be doing this. And in the end, they only got 1 out of 50 clients. I got the rest of them. And I kind of built up a business, had about 14 people working with me. Everything was going very well. Then the crash happened in the States in around 2008. Took a bit longer to go across. And I was doing very well because I was managing like 200 properties. I was doing loads of renovations. I'd done probably 100 renovations, built 30 apartments. Was managing a big commercial that I part owned as well. And then my investors started getting into it. And they were like, I was the small boy. I was worth maybe $1 million at that stage. And they were worth like 5 million, 10 million, even more. And they started losing everything. And I was thinking, this will come right. So say the commercial, I said, look, I'll put in the money. And if you can't pay me by the end of the year, I'll charge you 10% interest, or else I'll increase my share. So I was being fair with them because they had put in their trust with me. And it never came right. And eventually kind of everything started kind of closing in on me. And I went to the banks and I said, hey, can I have, interest only for the commercial in Poland? And they were like, no. I said, look, I split it up. I got planning permission. I sell it in different things. And it was like, no, the Irish properties, they were on interest only. And they changed it to repayment. So instead, it went from cash positive to being like £1,000 extra per property. So that I was getting kicked in all directions. And eventually it fell down. And usually when you have a limited liability company, it's kind of like, lesson learned, let's start again. And nobody told me in Poland that when you're the president of a company, you're personally liable. Hence why I had all these debts that just came to me. And all the investors, it was like having a crying baby. Everybody disappears. And I was caught holding the baby. So I had to kind of navigate that. And through that, had over 100 court cases, but I saw so much corruption. I was like, corruption, bailiffs working with the banks, valuers working with the banks, bailiffs bribing people in the rooms to get their own cronies to buy the properties, and I'm liable for the excess debt. And it was just kind of, I eventually sorted it out and dealt with it and went to an event, and the event was, what's your quest? And I was like, all right, I need to expose this, because I think most people would know somebody that's thrown in the towel when they go through this kind of thing. And like, even in the States, like what frustrates me is through health, so many people go bankrupt through just health. I mean, it's bad enough if you're going to say through cancer or something like that, and then you lose everything. So it was like, this is all orchestrated. So I wanted to expose everything. But I also, at the time, did not like public speaking. Even though I was running big jobs for a company in Ireland up to when I moved across, it was never something I was comfortable with. I'd kind of be sitting with 20 people, architect. I was doing jobs for Johnson & Johnson. We were the mechanical contractors, like €10 million size, big projects. but it was my time that I hated. Like the day before, I was just kind of not being able to sleep. Just this wasn't my thing. And I realized I need to become a better speaker to get my message out. So when I came back, I joined the Toastmasters. I joined another Toastmasters. I formed the Toastmasters Club, International Entrepreneurs. I became a coach to a Finnish company, and I entered every competition, done an open TEDx, done open comedy, and got into the final of 5 countries. So I went from one extreme to the other. And during that time, then there was another event, and the guy done like how to podcast. I was like, oh, I'll go to this. And it was a few hours. I said, oh, I can do this. And I always kind of was thinking about the exposure. But I said, I know I'm going to be attacked for doing this, so let's learn the trade. So I did the speaking one first. The speaking podcast was my very first one. It's like 7 years now. And because of all the competitions all over Europe, I was able to invite plenty of people to be a guest, and just kind of from there then built everything.
Oh, that sounds awesome. That's
now,
a great.
Now the big question, Roy, that you didn't address in there is: did you keep the girl that you went there for originally?
No. The reason I actually moved is I went with her, and then it broke up, and then I had a choice of do I do it? But I have a beautiful son. My youngest, he's 11, from a Polish woman. I got married at one stage, but it didn't work out. But different girl. But I have the most incredible child ever, and I've equal custody. And I'm actually one of these people that doesn't fight with their ex. We get on very well, which I wish everybody could do, instead of just tearing each other with a brush.
Well, definitely. I mean, it's one of those things to where going and having that much stress and being able to figure out how you're going to pivot in your life is a huge spot. I mean, I've started companies with absolutely nothing, built them up, lost it. I've done it a couple of times in my career. Dean, I think you've had a couple of things.
Yeah, I've had a couple. I've had a couple of those failures that you learn from. But I think all entrepreneurs go through that at some point. They do really well, and then they have failures or things that just basically crumble on them. So,
well, it makes a true entrepreneur. So you found podcasting. You had the fear of going and talking. Did I hear you say that?
Yeah.
So how did you get over that fear? What was your process there? What do you think happened there?
I think it was a mental shift. And it's a thing that I kind of question everything now, because I had told myself a story. I'm not good at public speaking. That's not me. And because of all the people I bring on the show for, say, the speaking podcast, of the first couple of 100 people, I was always asking them your story. So many people that came from school. And what happens is that you're learning a language, the language of English, and they're going around the class making you read. So you're stumbling and you're stuttering and you're panicking, and like you don't understand what's going on 5 people before you, and everyone laughs at you. So then that's the memory you have. So you just fear standing up. And I'm convinced that's what it was. Like, that's the reason that I didn't enjoy standing in public, because it's the same with most people. Like, I think the Americans are a lot better at that. You can encourage that. And most people aren't afraid to stand in public and speak compared to the rest of the Europe.
I would disagree with you on that. Most Americans are scared to really put it out there. I mean,
Dean has a big fear of it
too, but I think overall, I don't think everybody's that comfortable with it because of the same reasons. They're scared of ridicule. They're scared of what other people are thinking. They're scared of what they're thinking about themselves, and I fall into that same guise. I mean, Rob couldn't get me in front of a camera until he started the podcast thing. And I'm doing better. I still struggle a little bit. I'm still a little self-conscious, but no, it's a great story that what you said on the recovery piece. And so then you learned you went through Toastmasters to help yourself speak better. And that's when you started the podcast, is after you became more comfortable with speaking. Yeah. Is that how you did that?
Yeah. And because Toastmasters before, like now it's a thing called Pathways. It's a bit different. But before, when I was joining it, you had like a book of 10 speeches. So I do communication. I done one specifically. So we'd have speeches where somebody's interviewing me or I'm interviewing them in front of a room full of people, but they're friends. So it's not as bad as if you just went into, when you start speaking in front of a couple of 100 people that you don't know, but it gets you to overcome that fear. And I started reading a lot of books, watching TEDx speeches, TEDx books, Kennedy books on how to speak. And it was just trying to learn different ways, plus getting the people on. And I was just constantly learning from the people coming on and preparing. And like what I've learned is it's all about the message, that because a lot of the speakers have an ego. But for me, it was always about bring a story, let people walk away better than when they came to the room. And what shocked me was there was one time that somebody came along, not everyone would join. And about 2 years later, they came along again. And they started telling me about a speech I had done. I mean, I totally forgot about it. But I was like, wow, you have an impact on somebody that they can remember exactly what you said 2 years ago. And then from that moment, it was like making sure that it's never about you. It's always about what can I do in this room to help the people. And same with a podcast. Like, it's not like it's always about what we can do to actually somebody to take away some information and that they'll kind of go, "Ooh, I feel better now." And that's what it's about. And that's the type of person then that will share it or will come back. And you always think like that.
Well, I think when it comes to marketing, anything inside of there and how the internet kind of works, no matter if you're talking podcasts, if you're talking blogs, if you're talking about, video marketing, so anything on YouTube or anything like that, you have that whole entire piece. That what I love about it, and I've talked about this on a couple podcasts recently, but what I love about it most is you can record it today, have 0 listens, or maybe have 5 or 6, just really low numbers. And then one day it just takes off. And you help all those people that are inside of there because you never know when it's going to go. And I think that's a big part of everything inside of this world. And I love it because even if it doesn't resonate today, it might resonate tomorrow. You never know when someone's going to search for that information to help them out.
And a lot of times, because I help people go on shows as well, and a lot of times people would say, "Oh, it's a new show, I don't want to go on." They want to go on the established one. And I'm like, no, this is a great time, because usually people come in and they'll go back to the first few episodes if they like it. And because you probably see it, like, I mean, a lot of my podcasts, I have 6, a lot of them, like the first 10 are massive. They just keep going up. Awesome. And it's people go back and listen. So if you're on the top 10 shows, you have a massive chance that people will be constantly listening if you've got some service, and you'll be like, where were all these leads coming from? So if you're not asking, but they could come from a show that you were an early guest on.
Yeah.
So I know Rob was talking about marketing, and we use this format, excuse me, which is the audio where we and the visual kind of thing. And we use it for content to help us create information out there to talk about, to help us get our message out. Is that how you kind of approach it as well? Do you use strictly audio, or do you do the video as well?
I do both, and I'm on BitChute and Rumble. I know there's Odyssey and different ones, but with, say, The Awakening, that's one where I'm exposing fraud and corruption. I got removed from YouTube. And what I did is I took a screenshot and used it to have on BitChute, and now that one has over 400,000 views, just that on BitChute alone. And you just kind of, if you're on one only, they have control, whereas the audio, and you never know, because sometimes, like, I've got one, say, on YouTube, it could get 20,000, and the audio mightn't do that well, and other times it can be the other way around. You just don't know. It's like you don't know what way it's going to do. So the best thing is to put it out there and just make sure that you've got the link so people can find you. And like on the website as well that I use, it's got all the different options, whether it's Spotify, Apple, or the video. At least people then, when they find it, they go in and then they can look in or listen, whatever way they prefer.
Well, I think it's a huge piece. And I think when I was going through and I was reviewing some of our stuff of how we're currently doing it, I think we're missing the boat on that, because I picture it as making sure the videos inside of the blog after you do a podcast, having a blog wrote about that podcast, but then having a bar, and I'm putting this over to the team today, to have this bar underneath the video that says listen on, and have each of the different networks, because someone might have Spotify, someone might have YouTube, somebody might be over here. You never know where they're going to listen at. And that's what I love about that whole piece. But then being able to create those backlinks, have the author in there, have our guest inside of there, and have it be a spotlight, that I think is going to have a lot of SEO value to it as well when it comes to the marketing side. And that'll benefit the guest that's on, and it will also benefit us as a company, which is absolutely awesome.
And like what I like about what you're doing, I mean, I said prior to recording, like I haven't seen this kind of setup before. I think it's fantastic because, one, you give the option when you're logging in, the name, and whether you have, I mean, that's something I just used anyway. I always do myname.com because it's kind of, no matter where you are, it kind of makes it easy for people. But it's really nice. You've got the name and then you got what you're doing on it. And then if that's on the different channels, it's like people go, that looks interesting. As opposed to sometimes the square and the different people, or just the split screen or the speaker only. It's not, but this would grab someone's attention. They said, there's something going on there. I need to find this out. And it's all about that. It's all about grabbing their attention. And like, I mean, marketing is really important. But at the start, I had a guy, he's like Craig Maga, and he's really kind of international with it. He's very popular in Poland on TV and everything. So he came to my house and we were doing it. And I set up the tripod and I said, choke me. And he's looking at me like, and he's going, what? And I said, nobody's going to care if we're standing next to each other and we take a picture. Choke me. And that took off because people were like, why is he choking? And you just have to be crazy. And I put that in my forums. If you've got a crazy picture, send it to me. And sometimes people send something, they're sitting on a unicorn and all this, and you're going, oh, but I know that's what's going to grab your attention, because everyone just has the picture just like that. Who cares? You might think, oh, I look nice in that picture. It's not. It's about, like, if you have something crazy, that's what people are. There's something going on here, and you just grab their attention. You always have to grab their attention.
Well, I think I like that idea. Rob and I have a picture on ours where we're standing back to back, and we say, "We've got your back." Maybe I need to be choking the living crap out of you, Rob.
Exactly.
And we get more people. Who knows? I like that.
I'll try anything once, Dean. I'll try anything once.
It's like anything's edible once, right? Right. But no, so Roy, do you work with small businesses as well, trying to help them get podcasts started, or are you more just an information guy where you try to get people to talk to you? Tell us a little bit about how you think it helps small businesses with the podcast situation.
So it's like, I mean, if I say the niche, because like anyone could start a podcast. So no matter who is listening, it's like, it's easy. You don't need to be tech to do it. But for me, the ideal is like, say, a coach, somebody that's a coach that's looking for a client, or a business owner. And sometimes say, well, who'd be listening to me? And one of the niches that you can do is, like, if you have a certain business and you kind of get high ticket clients, you can then invite them in and you're having a decent conversation, and they'll say, I like to work with Dean there. And so you have a way better chance of moving this forward, as opposed to getting through to the gatekeeper to make a phone call, and it rarely happens. So it doesn't matter even if you get 20 views per episode, you could actually get 6 figures from a client just by doing that. So a lot of people, they kind of realize, okay, and same with touring, you can go around. Like I tell people sometimes, do a tour, and one, it's like, to overcome the fear, because like you mentioned, you're not comfortable. You can actually get comfortable by just going and just saying, no, it's okay, I'll just do it. You get out there, but you're also learning from all the different podcasters, because every single podcaster has got a different system. They've got their different, like this. I mean, I haven't seen this before, so I learned from that, and I thought, hey, this is really good. This is professional. And it's another thing to put into your belt to help other people. And it's all about that. It's just kind of looking, how can I make things? So for someone that's going to start, I encourage them, if they're not feeling that comfortable, to do it. And then they're looking at the different kind of setups, and like using StreamYard, using, Zoom, using the different ones, and then realizing it. And when they do it, then they're comfortable. Plus, they've built up a few relationships, so they can invite a few of the people that have had them on their shows. So it's not as nerve-wracking. And then once you do a few, then it's grand. And like when I've done a lot of the live ones. I remember the first few, like, you're kind of terrified, but then after that, there's nothing to it. Like, the main thing is you're prepared. Once you're prepared, it's grand, and it's simple. And I just teach all the different people that I work with. That's the way they should be doing it.
Well, I'm curious, what is your usual software stack? So what are you recording in, and how are you distributing out?
So I use Zoom, and I use Audio Technics. I have the earphones and the mic. And the reason being is I'm not that technical either, and I like a USB straight into the thing. Some people have got the mixers and all this. Every time I deal with somebody with a mixer, unless they're a technical person, something goes wrong and they just go into panic mode and you have to reschedule it. And I tell people, keep it simple. The quality is good. Like, I have a spare one just in case. This is going for 7 years, and it serves me. I use Adobe for enhancing the sound. So before, I used to use Audible, go in and not Audible, Audacity, and I go in, you take out the pauses and all this, but that's a lot of work. And the fact that I have 6, I get out 10 plus per week, so that's a lot of editing. And I just said, And I prefer just having it as it is. So kind of the journey of learning. Before I used to do inserts and outserts, and I'd have the bit of music and I was like, nah. I'd look at the tracking. Okay, people are dropping off at the start. They're just fast forwarding it, and at the end they're dropping off. So that's not. So then I just mention it as I'm doing it. So it's live, and I go, hey, you can find me here. Scan the QR code. Boom, boom, boom. And it's like 20 seconds, and then I'm introducing my guest, and we're going through it. And that helps. So it's like paying attention to all the different things. You'll just constantly evolve, because sometimes people, they'll do something and they listen to someone else. And like, for example, a lot of people, they do the music and everything. At one stage on my Polish podcast, I had a beatboxer. So I met him through Toastmasters. He was only 16. I was impressed because you have to be 18 to join, but he'd done it through his dad. And I was just like impressed with how he was doing. So I got him on as this, and that's actually like one of the top in the speaking podcast. I mean, I've had David, like I've had really famous people on different podcasts, but his one. So it just shows, because he was so excited, he was sharing it a lot. Sometimes people think you get the big boy and you get massive numbers. That not necessarily, because they're not going to be sharing it for you. Like they're more interested in you sharing it so that they get more people coming. And some people think you get the big boy and you're going to get millions of downloads, and then your podcast becomes famous and you then have millions from then on. And then you get a reality check. Like, so just be aware of that. And sometimes it can be somebody that has never been on a podcast. I've had another one on the crypto. The guy, he sent me the script, and I was like, what's going on here? He's like, I'm going to say this, you're going to say that. And then he came on and I said, yeah, that's not going to happen. And then he was like, we're doing video as well. And he was really panicking. But because of the Toastmasters, and I was, a mentor for a lot of people, I was able to get him to relax. It got thousands of views. And then he shared it because he realized, how good it was and the content. And the other thing is, sometimes there's a lot of agencies. And what happens is the agencies just do cut and paste. And I always said, please, you fill it out. Because I will be writing what's current in my life now. Whereas they're not even thinking of that. Or there could be one question kind of quirky that would be very good for a start mark. Sometimes they might ask you something and you just fill it in. And that could end up, it could go on a tangent. You could have a list of stuff that we're going to discuss and you just go on a tangent. But when it's an agent, they just cut and paste. And I always say, don't do that. And it's kind of, because what happens is if you're going on 20 or 100 podcasts and everything is the exact same, you have a different host, but it's the exact same podcast. So you don't have much content. You can't create charts. That's totally different. Whereas when you're doing it differently, you get, and that's why then people are like, oh, this helps. So you have to kind of think outside of the box and start doing different things and take control as well. Because what I found is that a lot of the times, I mean, there's one guy, he had over 80 books. And I could hear a fan, and I'll stop it. If I know that the quality isn't great, I'll stop it straight away. Or if the lighting is bad, because I know that's affecting me and I want to serve the listeners. And sometimes people are afraid to do that because it might be a high-end person who's got massive numbers and everything. No, it's your show. It's just take it as if it's a radio show or it's a TV show, and you're putting it out to the public, and you're the producer. And don't make sure that you're doing it. Don't wing it. Don't just throw it out if something happens and it's crappy sound or whatever. Like, you learn that, make sure that you take full control. And by doing that, then the listeners come back.
Yeah, I think some of the best stuff that's ever been out there on video or audio has been live, because you can't plan for some of the things that happen. And I think I agree with you that the non-scripted stuff, I think, is better. You can have an idea of where you're going to go, but you don't have to follow it, because Rob, I'm horrible at doing that. I make Rob do that. I have him go down a rabbit hole, and I'm doing it right now to him. And but that's the joy and the fun of doing it live and raw and unedited like we do.
And I think going live and going raw and unedited is something that people are looking for, because you can polish yourself. I mean, I can put myself out there polished 100% as an AI agent at this point, and a duplicate of yourself. No, that's not real. And I think we've had a lot of different guests that have been on the show that have been kind of taken back by the raw and unedited piece, because they're like, really, we're just going to have a conversation? We're not going to have an outline? No, just have a conversation. And I think it means a lot. And I think there's a lot of editors out there that want to put that music behind you. They want to make everything really polished and take out the ums and the ahs. Well, that's what makes you real inside of there. So I'm a big believer in keeping it the real true facts, because the brain does a better job at understanding those facts than all the BS and the marketing that it's constantly having to work through. Because in today's world, there's so much that's happening that you're being marketed to that your brain is constantly on defense. So the minute you have it to where this is real, it takes some of that part down, in my opinion.
And I mean, the ones that I look at, like Joe Rogan now, not all of his kind of the comedy ones, not really. I've never laughed at it, so I don't think, or the MMA, not really into that much. But he's had something like Graham Hancock, different people, but he just goes straight into it and he's just talking. And then like Patrick Bet David, this show, just the way they do it, it goes out as it is. And I think you look at the top ones and just what are they doing? And the bells and whistles and the music and all that, like the Polish one. Also, that I forgot to finish on that actually. So the guy had the beatbox, and I got him to do a beatbox intro, and it was like it sounded good, and it was great. Nobody said anything. And after a while, a few years, I kind of thought, I think I'll take this out. About 20 people wrote to me thanking me because they said it was wrecking their head, but they never told me beforehand. You can make assumptions with the thing. And another mistake that I made was with the speaking. At one stage, I kind of said, I'll take Christmas off. I'll take a bit of time. And it ended up being 2 months, but I never told my listeners. And I came back thinking they're all waiting for me in the room that I'll just put out the next episode. And no, it dropped off and I had to build it up again. So it's like, you can take seasons, but let the listeners know what you're doing, because then they'll expect you to come back and they're waiting for you to come back. But if you say nothing, they think you've just thrown in the towel.
They do, and they forget about you. There was a recent podcast I was talking to someone about this. I think that, or I was thinking about it the other day. I mean, my mother-in-law was an oncology nurse for years, and she thought that when she was going to go to retire, since she did all these trainings and did all this stuff, she thought that okay, when I retire, they're going to miss me. Like this is all has to be done. All this has to be completed before I leave, and all this different stuff. It just was eating her alive. And she, in her mind, I'm pretty sure she thought that they were going to need to call her to be able to go over some stuff because she was that important. But she learned really quickly is all of a sudden it got new training materials. All of a sudden that all of it kind of just flipped overnight and naturally just continued down the road. And people do the same thing with podcasts or anybody they're following. If they don't put out any content, they're going to forget about it. Hell, we do it with seasons on TV shows. And then it comes back and you're like, oh, look, it's back. I'll watch it now. But if you didn't touch them and didn't have that touch point inside of there, you're not going to trigger the spot for them to come back and rewatch you. And that's why email lists are so important for a lot of podcasters, in my opinion.
And like what you said there about your mother-in-law, sometimes people that are working for a corporation and they're important, they could have a high-end position, and then they decide to go out on their own, and they think everyone is going to serve them because they were important, and they get a reality check. People don't take their phone calls because they are only talking to you because they want to get the business that you're working in. And I've come across so many different people that was such a shock to their system to realize that your that title is only, it's not about you. It's the title that you've got that they want to connect with.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a huge piece for a lot of business. It's kind of like people that go, I ran into a guy the other day that, and I've talked about this a few times now, but he was talking about he started a business, and he started a business because he didn't want to work so hard. Well, I've never started a business and not had to work my ass off. It's not going to be there's some business owners that get to go on vacation, can go do all this different stuff and not worry about it, but they had to work their ass off at some point unless it was all given to them. And podcasts are kind of the same way. If you're starting a podcast, it takes a little bit of work to get it going, and it's not just a overnight, boom, you're ready to rock and roll kind of piece. You have to get your software stack right. You have to make sure all that's there to make sure that it goes through. So when we were kind of talking about this setup, our setup is we run StreamYard, by the way, and then we run Opius, and then we run one other AI tool. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. Something like that. Yeah. And then we run Descript, and then we put everything out by RSS. But I mean, we cut shorts off of all of our longs. We get a blog post off of everything, but everything kind of stacks. So inside of our world, we talk about that as being part of the tree. So at the very bottom, you have all your listings and all of your organization, and that's just your whole piece there. Your website, which is your trunk, and then you have your branches. Well, podcast is a major piece on that branch. and it can be, and it connects and it touches every little piece of everything you do because you can bring it into your marketing. And that's what I love probably most about podcasts. And I kind of went a couple different directions there. Sorry. I'm gonna blame the allergy med, but it probably isn't that. It's probably just my brain.
You're the new rabbit hole guy today by that one there, Rob. So how's that?
I'd rather blame whiskey than I would allergy med, but that's not going to be a case for some.
There you go. So Roy, you said you got potential customers or existing clients to come on podcasts. What's the secret of getting people there? I mean, because people like to talk about themselves. Like if you're one-on-one, like we're in a room together, you love to tell me about your business and everything about it. But you try to get people to say, let's go on a podcast, let's talk about it. And they don't want to do it. And what's your secret to trying to convince people to come on and get comfortable and talk about their situation?
It's a kind of one that I'm putting them in the right ones. So you're finding the niche. Like I've had medical people and they're getting into where they would find customers, because sometimes people are just going on the different one. But two, just making them relaxed. It's like, all I say is like this, there could be 1 million people listening to this, or there could be 3, it doesn't matter, but we're just having a conversation. And it's like, don't think about the people out there, because you just think about the 2 people we're chatting. I'm talking to Dean and I'm talking to Robert, and that's what it's about. Just having a conversation and don't even be worried about, because if you start thinking about, who's listening and what they'd say and all this, don't. Just and once you get them relaxed, that's the most important thing. And then I kind of strategize about who's the best one, because it's a kind of minefield out there, because with all the numbers and the stats and everything. And I heard a previous I forget the Jake previous episode. So he was even saying tracking as well. It's impossible.
Jake was another podcast guy that was on.
Yeah, because like I see even in Podmatch and loads of different things. I look, sometimes it's way down to what I'm actually getting. Before it was way up. I was like, where are they getting these figures? I mean, nobody, like Apple and Spotify, they're competitors. So the reality is you need every single person to give the information to get an accurate. So sometimes I go in and I look at different ones. Like I've got Podbean with the Polish one. And then I can see my stats for followers on all my other podcasts. But I don't log that. I just go to the big ones. So there's hundreds of platforms out there. You know, like there's the Amazon. You never know, like, so I'm a podcaster for 7 years. I can't even do it. I mean, eventually there'll probably be an AI that can go out and track everything. But a lot of the times they're saying, we can't check websites. We can't do this. We can't do that. So it's like, just track the big ones. And I do it not for an ego basis. It's just that I have an Excel sheet the way I do it. And I just try to grow it by, like, I have a color system. Yellow is 0.5%, green is 1%, and I go purple for 2%. And I just try to grow followers, numbers, and everything. And then as I'm looking, I go, something's up. Why is this off? And you go, I didn't put it on BitChute. I didn't. And, putting it on Facebook and everything. Do I enjoy that? No. Does anyone? No. But it's unfortunately we have to do it. And so you can outsource it. You can get somebody that's doing it for you, creating the shorts and everything. But to get the message out and just track everything, then and like, don't let the numbers get you. Like I remember after 3 weeks, I was trying to get to 100 downloads, and I was going to everybody in the talk, did you listen yet? Did you listen yet? And it was like such a big thing. And then later it was like 1,000. And I remember when I hit 1 million with a few of them combined, it was kind of like, it didn't really matter. No, it's like the Polish one has got millions. It's like the YouTube is like 1.5 million, and the audio is 1.2 or 1.3. Like, massive number, but it doesn't matter. It's just making sure that the content is good and everything. And I'm not tracking it to go, I've got X amount of millions. It's just to make sure that I'm keeping my systems going and making sure I'm doing all the different things, putting out the TikTok. Like I put my shorts on the TikTok, because, and then I give the link, and I put, like, on my shorts, I put my website. I put my name.com, because a lot of times people buy the shorts, and people, they assume someone's going to like it, and they're going to go out of their way to find you. No, you have to make it easy and anywhere, and maybe the first comment where the episode is.
And Roy, have you seen how we do our shorts?
I haven't seen your shorts. No, I was looking at the videos is what I was looking at, your stuff.
So at the very top, it says that, check comments or description for full episode when it's a podcast one. And it has our website address also inside of there, but it also directs them to do that, because when you're going through your phone, you watch it, you go, okay, do I want to take action on that? Yeah, I might do it. So then you're like, oh, squirrel. And next thing you know, you're on that next video and you totally forgot about what happened just back there. So you have to be able to figure out how to be able to have a call to action inside of there to where they know where to find the big, if they're like, well, shit, there wasn't enough information inside of this actual episode, of that clip, because that's how it goes most of the time. I want to listen to the whole thing. They'll go and they'll listen to the whole thing. Or if you're trying to get them to convert to be able to buy a product, you want them to know where to go for it. If you don't ask for the sale or don't direct them to the main goal of what you're marketing to, you'll never get where you're going. That's kind of like barely going and just hoping for the best. That's like the Field of Dreams types of stuff.
But very few do that. I mean, that's brilliant you're doing that, but there's so many people don't do that, and they just assume people are coming back and they'll subscribe and they'll get it. And it's like, no, they're, as you say, the squirrel or the bouncy, whatever. Just, yeah.
I do that too. I'll be watching something. I'll watch a short and I go, well, that sounds really interesting. And the next one, like Rob said, comes on. And then I go, what was that one I had before? And then you can't find it. So you've lost that opportunity when that happens. So that's a great point, Roy.
So I was doing an experiment the other day, and I was going through shorts on YouTube, and I was just kind of tracking how many of them I actually watched the full amount on. I was tracking how many I wanted to go learn more about the product, and I was tracking how many people actually asked for the sale or direct you to where it needs to be inside of a comment, the description, or say it inside of the video. And it was less than 0.5% of all the videos I watched that they even asked for a sale. And most of or asked for any kind of direction. It might have been watching the full video, might have been taking some kind of action inside of there to take them to the next video. And most of them never asked for it. Which is just, it blows my mind. My wife came in when I was doing it. She goes, I thought you're working. I said, I am. And she goes, what? It's just on YouTube. And I'm like, I am. I'm looking at the human behavior, trying to figure out what makes somebody stop, what makes somebody think about it, and how it works from an end user. Because sitting on this side of the camera, you don't always see that side. And what's nice about YouTube Shorts is it will put your own shit in there every once in a while, and you're like, well, what would make me stay here? So it then gets into that natural algorithm for what that ends up doing.
I use like TubeBuddy vidIQ, and it's something that I'm trying to now navigate and do better on the stuff.
Yep.
And I have my team that does the shorts, and so I edit every episode, so they'll see all the show notes, so they know the timestamp of what they do. So basically, when I upload it, they go and use click grab and get it, so there's no sharing files. So I kind of compress all the time for doing that. And it's one time they were putting up a video, and I'm looking at all the stats, and I'm like, geez, I spent so much time in doing hashtags, using the AI to get the title right. It's saying, oh, this is a high 90 or 92, and thumbnail and all this. And it'd maybe get 20 views. And there one then was getting like 700. I said, we forgot to put in the hashtags and everything. So, you can go away and organize everything, and they just upload it. And you can be just lucky. And like, I'm doing a load of that now. I'm working on different things. And I've got all the keyboard, everything. And sometimes it works, and other times it doesn't. And it's like, don't beat yourself up. But there's one thing that happened recently. I was showing one of my business partners on one of the businesses that we do, and I was saying the shorts, this guy his channel's just a year, and he's got like millions of views already. But like, his shorts were like all, like 1.5 minutes, all the bells and explosions, and it's like real entertainment, and he's moving, and he's like, and then I went into his YouTube channel, and he's talking finance, Bitcoin, and he's like, whoa. And I was like, he's grabbing their attention to bring them in, because it's like, ooh, but then when you go in, you've got somebody that's boring and not entertaining. Whereas you think you're getting this type of character that's the show. So I think even though you've got the numbers, I think you can do damage by doing that, because it's not point in fake. I mean, everyone can fake something and create this kind of thing, but the reality is, if someone is checking you out, they like that personality, and you're better off being authentic. So when they come in, they go, I like his style, I like the way he does things. And I think by doing that, you're doing the wrong thing.
Well, you can toss a lot of that stuff for like in this, like you talked about for the what our layout is around us. So there's the three of us. You have call to actions inside of the screen. They know what that is. You don't have to have stuff flashing on the screen to be able to hold engagement if you're having a good conversation. Is everybody going to watch it from beginning to end? Hell no. It's not going to happen. But the people that are going to get value from are going to do it. Now, in the finance world, if you want to be able to pull someone in, it wasn't Wolf on Wall Street that did it. It was where the market was crashed. I can't remember what it was called. But there's a scene where she's in the bathtub and talking about breaking down what finance really is. And there's this like really hot girl inside of there. I mean, that's how you get someone's attention for finance on a podcast, is you get some hot chick inside of a tub. Someone that looks a lot better than I do, but hey.
Yeah, we'd have to call the whale extermination people if we got in the hot tub.
I've joked about doing a couple of videos from the hot tub, but I've got a big set on me, but I don't have that big of a set. I'm comfortable in front of the camera, but not in that kind of way.
What I started doing, like I do a weekly show with a guy, and like I look at all the stats and everything, and I've kind of done it in a way to grab their attention fast. So we have like a PowerPoint kind of thing showing, we break it into 5 different things: news, AI, good news caravan, so positive things, health, and then any additional topics. And I have my maybe 20 slides. So I'm saying this week we're going to talk about bum, 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 bum. And it's and I'm seeing, because I look at the analytics, like sometimes it's staying at 100% because I'm grabbing them at the start. And on the opposite end, there was one guy that I had on my show, and it was kind of like a hot topic at one stage was bugs, people eating the bugs and bars from bugs and everything. I said, oh, this would be an interesting one. I can just kind of find out about it. And the guy, when he came on, it was like, did he crawl out of bed, or is he about to crawl into bed? Because he just didn't bring any energy and everything. And I was like, and I kind of felt I didn't enjoy it. And I just put it out anyway. And it went down to 8%. And I was like, shame on me for just kind of compromising myself. And I was like, after that, I was like, no, don't ever compromise. Like, if know it's not, like, you feel it. Don't spit it out there, because it's going to hurt you. And by actually looking at your analytics as well, I mean, I because of all the court cases I've had and everything, I learned a lot about sovereignty, common law, and things like that. So I started reading like 20 books on it. And then I got people on it. And I said, oh, people are really interested in that topic. So then I do a monthly one on that at least. And I get different guests coming in because I'm serving them. I'm looking at the numbers and I go, oh, these ones do really well. Whereas if you're not tracking it, you don't know. I mean, it's different. Obviously, some shows have a different team and stuff like that. But if you've got something that's kind of exposing and you go, oh, people really like this side of things, get more, start listening, see what's working, and then feed that. Don't be just because you like a certain side of things.
Right.
And that way then, because you've got the right listeners, then they can become customers as well.
Well, I think that's a huge aspect. And I think that, we've talked about having another podcast that's going to be coming out for us that will be more for having business owners come on and talk about their business, which that'll be kind of a cool whole entire piece as well. But when we do that, I was like, well, I think that one we're going to do as its own YouTube channel. We're not going to put it part of Simply Be Found, but we will still have Simply Be Found branding on it. But I mean, you have to be able to look and be able to section out, because certain ones you can do lots of different shows on and have it there. I know people thought we were crazy when we first came out saying we were going to do 5 a week, which, I mean, we have enough content that we can keep going on that for a while. Granted, we're, as far as guests being scheduled, just because, I mean, this one will go out on Monday. But one thing I've also considered inside of the podcast world, and where I was going to go with that, is inside of StreamYard, you can have an episode go live, but it not be live. I've almost thought about moving our podcast launch time and have everything go out as a live podcast. And it's a live episode, even though it's not recorded as live. What do you think on that?
I've done that, and it actually works, because one, it's grand doing a live thing, but like technology can fail us, and you don't want to work, because sometimes someone's internet can go down, someone can bait the door down. You just don't know. You can take that out and then put it out, and it looks better. And sometimes, like, we do a lot on StreamYard as well, but one of the there could be 6 of us sometimes on the show. but the person
That makes it harder.
It is, but you see, one person is engaging. So she's doing the intro, and then she just steps back and she's doing all the moving stuff and like comments and things like that. But you can't, like, I can't have, just say if I was having one of you on and I'm talking away, if I'm checking the comments, I'm not present. And you could say gold to me and it could just go straight over my head. Whereas if you put it out as live, the two of you could be present and start engaging with people. And I think that serves the people better because, and one, you're able to listen as well because you know yourself, like, you know, you have a conversation. But then when you're listening yourself, it's different because you're not totally present in the conversation. You're actually sitting as if you're one of the listeners and you enjoy. I mean, I love, you know, editing because I'm listening again. And I think by putting it out as post live or whatever way you call it, I think it has massive advantage.
I think it does. I think it has a huge advantage to it, which, I mean, it still works for the SEO side. You still have an access to YouTube. You can go live. I mean, I think we could do it through RSS as well. I mean, actually, I know we can. So we could even have it go out live to a lot of the podcast networks, which is kind of cool because people might be more apt to be able to do it. One of the things I know for Simply Be Found Huddle that we've talked about that we wish that would be more like a radio show. And that's always been kind of our goals to have it kind of just feel like that and be that natural conversation. I don't know, Dean, do you think we've accomplished that?
I think we're getting better. I mean, compared to our first podcast, this is so much better already.
Yeah.
Just my comfort level and then our engagement with our guests is so much better than it was at the beginning because we didn't really know what we were going to expect on that whole thing. And it's been very lovely for us to have some people. We've had some people a little bit out there a little bit that I relate to and Rob doesn't, and then vice versa. So that's why the two hosts kind of thing works really well because then if for some reason, like Roy, if you were just interviewing me and I wasn't clicking, you kind of go, wow, what do we, you know, so Rob will jump in and interject, or I'll interject, and it keeps the flow going a little better. So I think it feels more radio-ish, if you will, American radio-ish. I'm not sure what the radio programs are like, morning shows in Europe are like, but they're very entertaining because people are commuting to work in our country and they listen to radio in their cars. So
I think you have that on your side of the pond, don't you?
I mean, I kind of listen to podcasts, so I find that when you're listening on the radio, what happens is that it used to be on the hour every hour. You're listening to 5 minutes of depression. You know, they give you the news. There's never anything positive, so you just kind of reaching to turn it off. So I find podcasts are more. You know, I find something that I enjoy, and just going back to what you were saying, Dean. There, like you've got a very good dynamic because sometimes what happens is when there's co-hosts, there's people jumping in. You just do it very well. Like you kind of know when one is coming in and the other, and you just but that doesn't always happen. And maybe it wasn't like that at the start because I didn't hear the early one, but that's something that you can iron out as well. And just kind of, you know, your styles and who's going to be talking and who has the specialty for a certain thing. And that not everyone can do that, but that's actually working very well for you.
Well, every once in a while, Rob and I step on each other because we both something triggers. But we at first we stepped on each other a lot more and kept going. But now we recognize that we're doing it and we stop. So thank you for that comment because that makes me feel good that we're cueing off each other well and making it work for everybody.
I just hate when Dean starts talking and then I have a really good thing I want to say and then I forget what the hell I was going to say.
Like I just did just now. You got a comment. I can say it. No.
No, I was thinking I'm going to cough is what I was thinking at that moment because of this damn stupid allergy shit. Which if I get those flowering trees to go away in the front, they might be chopped down by the end of the year. I think that's what's causing it, but that's a whole other topic. But Roy, getting back to you and kind of what you do, how can people find you? What's kind of what you do inside of there, just so they can come in and connect with you. So, and my brain just had a big brain fart on that.
I thought.
So, like everything is my name, roycallen.com. They find everything and all my 6 podcasts. So I help people. They want to start a podcast. I help existing podcasters that just kind of up their game and try to get. I mean, I've had all my 6 have been in the top 5% before getting to the top 0.5%. And I get people on the show as well. I've got one guy on 250 podcasts, and just making sure that they're relevant. I also have a business called va.world, virtual assistants, and we help kind of podcasters as well, but everything. So it's like we do packages from $99, creating the shorts, but putting them on the different social media. And just a little tip for yourself and for the listeners as well, like with, say, to learn Polish when you're on, say, Facebook, sometimes people go, it doesn't really work. With the Polish, I'm in something like 48, 50 groups. I'm in foreigners in Poland, foreigners in Warsaw, foreigners, Polish in Ireland, Polish in the UK, Polish in Chicago, because they're big, the Polish in New York. And then I'm sharing to them groups. So what you do is you find out who, like business owners for what you're providing, go into business owner groups and just comment or post your show there. And that where sometimes the people, they just blast it out, hoping for the best and say, Facebook doesn't work. It works if you put it in the right place. And most of the social media is like that.
You have to make sure you work it. And if you don't work it and you're not doing it and you're not making the most out of it, I mean, you could take all your content from it. When you do a video, when you do a podcast, you have so much content that can come from it. You can have your social media, your blogs, but you have to be able to get it in front of people, because if you're not driving that traffic, that's going to be a really, really bad part for you. So I agree there. But thank you so much, Roy, for joining us today. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, both. Totally enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.